Ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump Jr. Let's give it up.
Wow. What's going on, Youngstown? Thank you. I love you guys too. Even you, sir. Oh, let's worry about 2020 first, guys. We got like 8 more days. Let's just get through this one. Gino, everyone give Gino a hand. Come here. I heard him speaking. I go, I think that guy's trying to take my job. Although maybe that's good because I don't get paid to do this. I just like fighting for our country. Because it's worth it. And what Gino did is not easy. I mean, my understanding, you were a former Democrat, right, Gino? Yes, I was. He was a former Democrat. But you know what? Like so many Americans, he's realized this is not your grandparents' Democrat Party. This is not your parents' Democrat Party. Today's Democrat Party would throw John F. Kennedy in prison for being alt-right. And that's what we got to remember, guys. This Democrat Party today, it doesn't represent the hardworking men and women of this country anymore. Look at the things they're focused on. Donald Trump created the most jobs in the history of the United States. Donald Trump righted the policies that destroyed jobs. Joe Biden supported TPP. They supported NAFTA. He supported China's permanent status in the World Trade Organization. So I'm happy to have this conversation with you any day, sir. You can have your own opinions, but you can't have your own facts. The reality is this. Joe Biden destroyed more hardworking blue-collar jobs with his policies and his incompetence than any person in the history of the United States. 47 years of failure. 47 years of putting everyone else first, other than Hunter. Hunter was put first. He was allowed to sell out to China, to Ukraine, to Russia. And guys, as we found out now, Joe Biden knew about it all. I don't want to hear this nonsense, blue-collar Joe. I hear this all the time. You know, it's blue-collar Joe. You're not blue-collar if you've been a senator since your 20s. Right? He gets to play the game from your neighbor over to the east. It's blue-collar Joe from Scranton. He left when he was 9. He moved to Delaware. He became a senator in his 20s, and he stayed in the swamp for the last 47 years. That's not blue collar. By the way, this is a good blue collar crowd. I can say this with a straight face. I'm the son of a billionaire from Manhattan, and I have had more blue collar jobs than Joe Biden. That's a fact. Because unlike Joe and Hunter, we were actually business people before politics. It's what we did. We built buildings. We created things. We employed people. And my father's theory was always this. If you want to build a building, you better damn well know how to dig the foundation. And not like the people in D.C. who learned by watching other people do things, but by actually doing it yourself. So he stuck us on D10 caterpillars. That's what we did. He made sure we knew how to do things the hard way. Joe didn't do that. Hunter didn't do that, right? Joe just milked the swamp. Hunter's first job out of college, he got paid 6 figures to work at MBNA, the largest bank in the state of Delaware, where Dad was a senator signing favorable banking legislation and making it hard for people to get out from under credit card debt. It's amazing that Hunter proceeded through the ranks so quickly. It's almost like There was a quid pro quo, Joe. But this is a common theme, and we've seen it. Now you have a person, Joe Biden, who's likely the most corrupted person to ever run for office in the United States, let alone the presidency, just office. And no one wants to hear about it. No one wants to have a conversation, guys. You know, last week I would have said, hey, they're censoring you, of course, we're used to that. Fact check, true. Listen, what am I? Hey, the guy calls a lid. He calls a lid with 10 days left. He took 4 days off to prepare for a debate, meaning he wasn't really preparing for the debate. He was taking a nap. Because he has the advantage of having a mainstream media complex in his pocket. He has that ability. Think about it. I mean, seriously. I know people who are running for first grade class president that have spent more time campaigning and taken it more seriously than Joe Biden has for the presidency of the United States. It's because he feels entitled to it. It's his turn. He's been there for 47 years now. He has no accomplishment, minor details. But guys, that's what we're up against. A week ago, I wouldn't have said this, but we've seen mainstream media, social media, everyone literally running cover for Biden and his corruption. Now that you have witnesses coming out and saying, no, I know it was there. Joe knew full well what was going on. Hunter was holding 10 for the big guy. But these institutions that control billions of people, they're not even letting it out. The same people that spent 4 years pretending that I was doing like a fraction of the stuff that Hunter was actually doing, but didn't stop him from running with it, right? They say, well, we're just not going to share a link to that. I go, well, are you saying it's wrong? No, we don't. Has it gone through your leftist fact check process? I'm sure they can find some sort of nonsense, right? I mean, because you all know. If you're conservative, if you're Christian, if you're pro-life, if you're pro-2A, raise your hand if you've been censored online, thrown in Facebook jail or other. Yeah. Have you ever wondered why it only goes one way? Have you ever heard even the most vile leftist account get censored or shut down? No. And now they're doing it to protect Joe Biden. Joe Biden could literally be totally compromised by China, by Russia. Because, I mean, we've heard about Russia for 4 years, right? They spent 3 of those years trying to throw me in jail for some sort of being an agent of Russia. Why was Hunter getting $3.5 million from a known Putin associate? Imagine it was Don Jr. And I like to play this game because I take it personally. Let's do a little role reversal. Not like a Democrat role reversal. It's a little different, okay? But let's just change. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right? People, they got some messed up priorities these days. But imagine for a second it was Don Jr. that was taking $1.5 billion from the Chinese. The government, by the way, not like a Chinese investor. Chinese Sovereign Wealth Fund, a government-controlled entity, gave $1.5 billion to Hunter. Now, we've seen the pictures. Do you think they're doing that because he's a phenomenal investor? Yeah, no, they're probably not giving that kind of money. You know what that means, right? In a typical fund, there's a 2% fund model. You get 2% fee plus 20% of the profits. Let's get rid of the profits for a second. Let's assume that Hunter's as good an investor as Joe Biden is public speaker. Right? What? Hey, in all fairness, I've been doing this for about 5 minutes relative to Joe Biden's 47 years. It's not that hard. I mean, I'll get into that in a minute. But now think about it. 2% fee to the Bidens on $1.5 billion from the Chinese government annually is $30 million a year. $30 million a year to Hunter. You think he deserves that? You think he earned that? You think Joe's going to be tough on China? He spent 50 years sending your American dream there, shipping your manufacturing jobs there. Donald Trump's the guy that held them accountable. Donald Trump's the guy that took them on, got a trade deal done in January. You'd never hear about it because, of course, they're not going to talk about those sorts of things because they're good for Trump. You'll get clowns like that in the back talking about that. That's because Obama and Biden set those policies in action. That's 47 years. My father nailed it in the debate. Be like, Joe, you've been talking about these things for 47 years. Why haven't you acted? Right? He did act. Joe Biden created a lot of jobs in China. Right? Just like Joe, we hear every day. Joe's going to fix racial relations in this country. No, it's wonderful. I think it's a great... Why'd you wait 47 years? Half a century is a long time to wait. Look, I mean, I know some people take a little while to warm up. Gino got into his swing. It was like 2 seconds, and he was on fire. Me, maybe 3 or 4. I've been doing a lot of these. Tired after 3 months of doing it, right? So 3 or 4 seconds. You think that someone's going to get into their stride after 50 years? Are we to believe that that happens? I mean, in all fairness, the guy thought he was running against George Bush yesterday. No, you saw that, right? You see the wife, Jill, is Trump. It's Trump. She's like a ventriloquist. You know, she's got her little Joe Biden dummy, and I mean that both ways. Pun intended. She's got her little Joe Biden ventriloquist. Say Trump, it's not Bush. You know what? I mean, no, seriously. The guy, I mean, in all fairness, he's been running for presidency since the 80s. You'd think he'd know who he was running against at this point, right? And if you don't, isn't that the problem? I mean, seriously, she's sitting there like, I mean, they're trying to drag this guy across the finish line, but that's the problem. We all know he's not capable, so who's going to be president? He called a lid with 10 days left. He's not able to leave the basement to do a public event for the last 10 days of a presidential race. He's literally not doing any more public events till Election Day. He's hiding because he's not capable of doing that, but who is? I know that Trump is, but who's going to be doing it for them? Who's going to be in charge? Guess what, guys? I've watched the presidency. I've seen my father. It is a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week, 365-day-a-year job. When my father had COVID, I called to check on him, and he told me to get the hell off the phone. He was busy. They're talking about he's supposed to be dying. The media's hoping that he's going to drop dead. And I'm like, hey, how are you? Just trying to be a good son. Trying to be a good son, checking in on him. How you doing? I'm fine. I'm working. Let me get back to work. All right? Joe Biden does an appearance, and he has to go disappear for 4 days. Who's going to run the country? Kamala Harris. And Bernie, and AOC. I agree with you, but make no mistake. Make no mistake. That's why they have Joe. He's the camouflage. You know, they're going to talk, it's Moderate Joe. I've never seen his name written without like Moderate Blue-Collar Joe in there, right? You're not a moderate with Kamala Harris as your VP. You're not a moderate with Beto, hell yeah, I'm going to take your AR-15 O'Rourke as your gun czar. And you're sure as hell not a moderate adopting Bernie Sanders' platform, where you, the American people, have the privilege of a $4 trillion tax hike. Right? Then he says, oh, there's no tax increases to regular. Oh, really? You said you're going to eliminate the Trump tax cuts on day one. 80 to 90% of Americans got like a $2,000 almost benefit from that. So you're cutting that on day one. That's a tax hike. One of those institutions said, hey, the average cost of some of the plans that he's going to implement is a $6,000 plus cost to every American family. You know what you have the privilege of paying all that money for? To give free health care to illegals. You have the privilege of giving free education to illegals. And you have the privilege of paying for their legal fees as they open up the border to allow more to come in. Now, you know what you don't have the privilege of? You don't have the privilege of getting any of those things for yourselves. But they'll hide that fact from you, just like they're going to hide the Hunter Biden stuff. Guys, this election, it's not just the Second Amendment that's on the table. It's your First Amendment. If they can hide what a scandal that, honestly, if even a fraction of it is accurate, and by the way, the Biden campaign hasn't denied it, right? No, it's not like the media did the cover-up for them, but they haven't denied that it's actually true. This makes Watergate seems like kindergarten. Think about it now. I mean, a guy's son holding money for Joe Biden, influencing American policy in the countries where Joe Biden's supposed to be taking the lead. Joe's on tape withholding $1 billion of aid till he gets what he wants. You know, Hunter,